Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Well, I don't see you, but I think there are quite a few people watching right now. A lot of eyeballs drawn on this, which is very, very exciting to say the least. I would like to welcome you to Concordium's second town hall. Since the entire rebirth of the project, with the new direction, with the new strategy. Quick introduction to myself, because quite a few maybe I haven't introduced myself at town hall number 1 to now. There are quite a few faces, most likely sitting on the other side. I'm Boris, I'm the CEO. You're joined here by the wonderful team, from Mike, Chief Commercial Officer, Peter, Chief Technology Officer, and you've got Varun, our Chief Marketing, Chief Growth Officer. He wants to be called that. So, look, I think there's quite a few people that have been waiting for this town hall. It's been a week of amazing announcements with regards to what our strategy was outlining to do. I think in the very first town hall, I kind of covered a little bit of what my sentiment of the crypto space right now is. And, everybody to their own prerogative. I very much oppose the idea of, just having it artificially held up by things like meme coins, etc. And I think we kind of didn't really deliver as a space, and I'm in it now for about 9 years, at the core promise of why I think this industry exists in the first place, and which is ultimately using it to the extent of, if you think of Satoshi's white paper, digital peer-to-peer global cash. That's ultimately it. So payments, in my opinion, make the world go round. And in terms of real-world adoption, I think there has not much that has happened, quite frankly. With that, of course, we have drafted the strategy at the beginning of the year. I think it's now day 58 or 59, I actually didn't count, from when we had it signed off by the board, which was end of January. With the amazing features that partially were already there, but also with the roadmap that we have built out over the course of the last couple of weeks, and are executing on it. Look, what I can tell you is the early signs of the strategy going into execution are extremely strong. You will hear much more about this today, not from me, but ultimately from the guys that are supposed to use it. I can tell you that we are in discussions with most, if not all, stablecoin issuers out there, which is our, of course, core focus here. And those discussions are going extremely well. You know how it is. Things sometimes take time, but I can tell you that, holy shit, our set of features is really resonating. And I'm very, very happy to see that you will have seen this in the news, 4 issuers that have jumped on that strategy in that direction with us. To unlock whatever they would like to achieve. And I'm very happy that they are being joined up here with us today. So with that, of course, you've all seen the high-level roadmap. If you haven't, just go to our homepage. You will see it there. The tech is being built in line with this. We're actually fully on schedule. Peter can update a little bit more. I'm going to hand a little bit to him later. But I think it's important for everybody to know that we actually created our first PLT last week. Things look awesome. They work great. And there are a couple of announcements later on that kind of tie into that. But I'm going to let Peter say a couple of words about this, of course. But overall, which I think the most important thing is that the world is getting our narrative. The position of how our positioning as a project in this hyped up economy around, in my opinion, sometimes the wrong things, to build financial rails for the world to move money, and much more importantly to create it and use it in a real way, is absolutely striking the core. And with that, of course, we actually see very early signs as well in terms of metrics for the project, which I actually didn't anticipate. But you maybe have seen, if you've been following us, that also, third-party data providers have been showing that, addresses month on month are up 700%, which is amazing. Fees and CCDs are up month on month about 400%, which is, and transactions are up 900% month on month, just to mention a few. And there is all of this, of course, is without PLTs actually being live yet. We anticipate, since we're on track for this to be live June, July time, which will unlock all those use cases. And we anticipate immense growth on that front. So with that, of course, maybe a little bit enough from me to kind of hand over to the team since they're here. Peter, you maybe want to say a couple of words. Mike and Varun, the same. And just to kind of let everybody be happy, you will hear quite a little bit of Mike later. So with that, of course, Peter, over to you. If you want to
yeah, look, thanks for that, Boris. It's been quite full on. I can't believe it's only been 60 days since you said it. We've been very busy, to say the least. We've successfully launched our Protocol 8. I think everybody knows about that. That gave us the ability to kind of suspend validators that weren't performing, which obviously improves the chain. So that's going well, and you can see the result of that. And that set us up perfectly for Protocol 9, which is all the PLT work. And as Boris said, we did launch and kind of have our first PLT on the chain, on the ledger itself, and not in a smart contract. So great achievement by the team. I mean, we've done a lot. Look, I don't want to go too much about it in detail, but this isn't a SaaS-based application where you can just do release after release into a server. It's a complicated protocol. We have a big task ahead of us. We're trying to do 3 major releases into it, and credit to the team. They're pulling it off at the moment. So all looking in the right direction.
Awesome. I'll jump in next, guys. So, I mean, look, you're going to hear a lot from me, as Boris mentioned earlier on, with regards to the 4 new strategic partners that we've got. We're going to spend probably a good half an hour kind of going through everything in more detail on the payment and the stablecoin issuer side, but maybe outside of this, just to give a couple of updates. So, yeah, look, infrastructure-wise and in terms of the partners on the exchange front, we've had Bitmark going live since we last spoke. We've had Bitpanda going live, opening up another European on-ramp, which fantastic to have these guys on board. And then importantly, on the staking infrastructure side as well, we've had Luganodes actually join on this front, but a lot more from me to come shortly.
Yeah, and maybe just to top it up, as we all know, Web3 is very much around narratives, and it's really, really important to find the right narrative and find the right positioning. So very, very happy that we are already getting recognition as a PayFi brand. Which, for people who are deep into the industry would understand has got the biggest momentum. Also, since the last town hall, we have a new website, which I know has been asked quite a bit in the last town hall. So hopefully you all saw it. Hopefully you all have, liked it. And obviously website is something which is fluid. So we will continue to build on that. And lastly, being a small brand, the amount of efforts which has been put by the team to get influencer and press engagement has been phenomenal. And hopefully a lot of you are already seeing that. So I think those would be my 3 key highlights since the last town hall. And obviously lots already in works, which we will see light soon.
Well, there you go. Thanks, guys. Look, let me. I'm going to take a little bit of a swing again, because I think there are quite a lot of new people on this in this space here right now, on this X space. I kind of alluded to it before. I am very much of the conviction that we somewhat failed as a space, and there is a reason behind of how we positioned ourselves, why we are focused on stablecoins, why we position ourselves in and around PayFi. And this field is very much governed by, in my opinion, something that hasn't happened at all, which is the proper real-world adoption. If you think of payments in any shape or form, in and around, day to day, go and pay your coffee or do complex financial transactions. At the end of the day, 99.9% of the population have no Scooby of what's happening behind the scenes, which has always been my credo, that blockchain is something that needs to be used and not understood. For some reason, we moved that as a space in a direction where we made it a little bit complicated unnecessarily. And as much as, I'm very grateful for everything, that also things like Ethereum, like projects like Ethereum have done. They're having a very hard time right now. You surely have followed it. I mean, I was a little bit shocked yesterday when I watched something from, in my opinion, one of the brightest minds in the space, Charles Hoskinson, who basically stated that he doesn't see that Ethereum is going to be around in 10 years. I'm personally shocked about this, but at the end of the day, if you actually think about it, you kind of have to ask yourself, if we really want to use that technology away from that bubble that we have created, whatever it is now, right now, 2.8 trillion or whatever it is, whereby 1.8 is about Bitcoin. It's kind of disappointing in my opinion, and because the core promise of what it actually should be is in and around what we're trying to solve here right now, and we went a little bit too complicated, and we need to simplify things down. And this is why we have chosen the path for this, specifically in and around the core USP that we have, which is identity, and what you can unlock with that. Which, of course, you maybe have seen throughout the entire post and also on our homepage, and everybody else that has been following us now for a while, where you can solve for things like geofencing, where you can solve for things like age verification payments, which are crucial for various industries, from gaming to gambling to adult, whatever it is. And this is also ultimately where we step away from stablecoins just being used on the premise of ramping them onto Binance and buy BTC, Sol, and ETH for them, and actually using them in our day-to-day transaction. And this is really where the momentum comes in that I think we see. You have surely followed it. Like, stablecoins had remarkable growth over the course of last year and also this year, and I think we can expect much more with some regulatory clarity, like, for example, what's happening in the US in and around the Genius Act, which I think will come into effect somewhere like around summertime, July, August. But if you look at the pure stats, for example, in Q3 2024, the market cap of stablecoins rose by 5.3 billion. That's I think it was a 2.3% increase or 3.2% increase for the quarter, but a substantial 28% increase year to date. And if you look at Q4 last year alone, when things really started going, USDC, if we kind of pick them out as a specific one, because like on the compliance side, they position themselves amazingly well. The market cap grew by about 23%, climbing from 36 billion, I think, to about 44 billion. But now look at it now. USDC now is 61 billion. So this isn't just a crypto native trend, if you want to phrase it like this. Major financial institutions have started to kind of go into this whole topic. Traditional banks, big financial institutions, trying to figure out of how to enter that stablecoin arena by making it possible to power things like cross-border payments, remittances, digital cash solutions in all its forms. And this is really where the technology comes in. Now, yes, we're not Ethereum right now in terms of size, absolutely not, because nobody bloody knows us. It's our job in order to make sure that we get there, and subsequently have those stablecoin issuers like the ones that are present here on the call, which I'm ever so grateful for. This is the first batch. Like, at the end of the day, this town hall is this crescendo right now in terms of this week of announcement, which I was waiting for a long time. Well, a long time. 2.5 months, to be honest. Since
60 days.
It's not that long, right? But at the end of the day, it kind of shows that this fusion of compliance-ready stablecoins with scalable blockchain infrastructure enables you to kind of open up a whole world that is outside of this crypto-native bubble that currently existed. But both of them are needed, right? As much as for real-world applications, the same as for Web3, the way that we kind of position ourselves right now as a space. Now, for us, it was important to kind of position ourselves in a way where we redefine how money moves. And actually, if you think about it, of what money actually is. So with that, of course, we're kind of ahead of the curve, because those big projects, they won't be able to kind of change their entire infrastructure that they're currently running on to do something like what we do. We are the first right now. We won't be the last. But things like, the combination of protocol level tokens, minting natively on the base layer, whereby mitigating this whole smart contract bullshit, and smart contracts having fulfilled this custodial function, which they shouldn't. They should have never been doing this. They should only be there in order to enforce conditionality, which is where all those awful things happen to, my good friends at Bybit, right? Because like from Copper, Bybit was one of the early adopters of Clearloop. Ben is a great guy. But at the end of the day, what it was, it's another 1.4, 1.5 billion that went because of smart contracts. They should never, ever have anything to do with the custodial function. They should only enforce conditionality, which is why we built those protocol level tokens. Make it simple. Build it natively. You won't find anything that says like the blockchain got hacked. You go and Google about smart contract hacks, you'll find a ton. So that paired with privacy first identity allows you to actually enable institutional grade adoption. So with those built-in compliance features via those zero knowledge proofs, which are implemented correctly in our case, because a lot of people say set KP, set KP, set KP, but they didn't implement it correctly. We find that balance between accountability and privacy that then enables you to solve for things like geofencing for tokenized money market funds, because they are securities, they have to adhere to those rules. And if you want to make sure that you want to distribute them accordingly and maybe open up a secondary market, you need to make sure that they can only go into specific hands. It can't be in the world that we live in right now that loads of paper has to be flying around. There need to be technological solutions for this, and we have them. So people were just chasing, the next big, sorry, I nearly swore there, the next big 10x meme coin. And that's the wrong direction, in my opinion. As much as, it's the prerogative of everybody and everybody wants to make some money, cool. But at the end of the day, this is not sustainable. And same thing on the other side. Age verification is a huge topic, also from a regulatory perspective, if we like it or not. So if we bridge those two, we actually enable proper adoption. And this is much bigger than $2.8 trillion market cap, including, those wonderful coins that I just mentioned earlier. So for that, of course, you kind of need a proof of the market fit. I think I said this in one of the posts a couple of days ago. When you decide on a strategy, you kind of hope that it resonates and is being picked up by the market that is intended for. And which is where this whole thing now comes to this crescendo, in my opinion, on this call, where we have 4 issuers that have decided to go like, yes, this is what was missing. I have a certain use case that I need to solve for, and currently I don't find a solution to do this with at scale. So, but please don't take my word for it. At the end of the day, you will hear it from them directly. So this town hall here really is, I think, one of the pivotal ones, and we kind of will look back on this and go like, holy shit, whoever is here right now, I don't know who joined here, of course, but you will kind of look back and go like, man, I think we were part of, the birth of something proper. And this is my hope, and this is why I'm working, and we are working 18, 19 hours a day in order to make sure that we achieve this. So with that, of course, like I said, don't take my word for it. We're joined by some awesome partners of ours, the very first batch that is believing in that vision as well, and seeing that the technology that we're building is solving for issues that they have, and hopefully allow them to scale properly with the use cases that they go after. And with that, of course, I would like to pass over to Mike, because enough from me, I would say. And Mikey, please take it away. And all the guys, good to see you. And yeah, take it away, guys.
Thanks, Boris. Appreciate it. So, yeah, I mean, look, for those who are just maybe just dialing in or just joining right now, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. And yeah, look, welcome to the panel discussion. Ultimately, today we're going to be exploring the role of stablecoins in the evolving landscape that is there, where adoption's coming from, or at least what we're seeing and what the issuers on the call here are seeing as well. Obviously, the strategic partnerships we announced this week with the guys here. And look, ultimately, how they and us here at Concordium are breaking down those barriers for non-Web3 native adoption. But yeah, look, before we start, I know Boris has given maybe the more philosophical version just there, but let me just kind of give a quick recap on the chain, what we're doing, and I'll keep this kind of to the 2-minute version here, but I just want to make sure this is kind of grounded in everyone's minds before we start. Ultimately, of course, we, like everybody who's joining here on the call, I imagine, given you've joined this panel, you've joined this town hall, we recognize the potential of stablecoins, but more importantly, and this is really where we're focusing, is we recognize what the obstacles to adoption actually are. Now, ultimately, it comes down to, at least from our side, there are two unique features of our blockchain that de-risk that adoption, with a view of, and this is really how we're approaching the world, growing the overall pie by bringing in new money, by bringing in those balances from a, however you want to term this, Web2, Main Street, TradFi, whatever it may be. We're looking to bring in these new balances and grow the pie, and not just try and take some of the market share from a Solana or Ethereum or any of these other kind of Web3 native chains that are out there. So look, just quickly, there are two features or two value props, I think, that actually allow for de-risking the adoption, as we kind of keep saying here. The first, Boris mentioned it, it's the ID layer that's natively baked into the heart of the protocol. What does that enable? It enables ZKP-based disclosure of any line item that's on your ID card, right? Driving license, passport, whatever it may be. Now, if you actually think about the examples of what this can have in kind of real world application, the first one there would be age verifying payments that actually enable the sender of the stablecoin to simultaneously demonstrate that, depending on the jurisdiction, they're over 18, they're over 21, whatever it may be. You can actually do this in a single transaction now. So this is the first example of how the ID layer can be leveraged using obviously the date of birth line item. Now, the second example, and again, Boris alluded to it, the geofencing of tokens, ultimately preventing them from an issuer's perspective or from a regulatory perspective from circulating in jurisdictions that you're not allowed to, right? This is ultimately there, and that's just leveraging the address or the nationality line item that sits on your ID. So that's feature one, the kind of two high-level examples of this. Feature two, protocol level programmable features. We've all heard this hype in the industry consistently of the promise of blockchain is programmable money. The reality is nobody programmed the money, right? People take the money, the stable coin, then they give up custody of this to a smart contract, and it's the smart contract that you're actually programming, so to speak, to actually try and replicate any traditional payment functionality that you're used to. But these smart contracts, as again Boris alluded to, they're vulnerable. They do happen. There are many losses, and this isn't going to stop anytime soon, right? Until someone solves for this. And our opinion of the market is that you actually bring this down to the protocol level, straight to the blockchain itself. So what does that actually mean in reality, to kind of paint the picture there? Ultimately, the blockchain enables you to schedule a set of payments and ultimately lock them and then automatically distribute according to the terms of the payment that were agreed. Now, what does that mean from a recipient of the payment and kind of that real world adoption, which we keep trying to drag this back to? Ultimately, it means as the receiver of especially a longer dated or a multi-leg transaction, you no longer have to choose between the counterparty risk of the sender, i.e. that they're going to sign that transaction once a month, once a week, once an hour, whatever it may be, depending on the terms of the contract. You no longer have to choose between that counterparty risk or the counterparty risk of the smart contracts, which you've coded to actually deliver those payments. So for us, these are the two things, the ID layer and the programmable money at the base layer. But look, I just want to give this quick recap, but without delaying any further, please allow me to introduce you to the gentleman you see on screen now, and your four strategic partners that not only have chosen to issue on Concordium, which of course we greatly appreciate, but perhaps more importantly are committed to help us effectively refine that roadmap that's in place that you've all seen for 2025. Ultimately, for us, we want to make sure that whatever we deliver throughout the course of this year, it actually achieves product market fit, not just our estimation of this. And ultimately, this is what we want to make sure we achieve by working with the right partners that are actually going after that real world adoption, so to speak, right? So look, maybe if I just go around the room and introduce the gents that you see on screen here, just in order of how they're appearing on my screen, we've got Andy over here is the founder and CEO of Agant, so UK-based fintech, and ultimately the issuer of GBPA, GBP peg stablecoin, as the name suggests, and ultimately aiming at transforming those GBP settlement rails, right? So that's Andy. Then, of course, you've got Arpan over here, who's the founder and CEO of Noon. So obviously an innovator developing USN, which positioned as basically next generation yield generating stablecoin pegged back to the US dollar. You've then got Julian from Deep Blue, founder, CEO, and ultimately financial tech firm, issuer of DBUSD. That's actually Jersey's first dollar-backed stablecoin, and focusing, from what I understand, on enhancing the cross-border remittance market, first and foremost. And then last but certainly not least, of course, we've got Borja over here, UAE-based initiative, introducing AEDx, which, again, as the name suggests, an AED peg stablecoin designed to enhance financial inclusion and effectively support the local economy. But I'll let Boha give you a little bit more on this shortly. But look, guys, maybe just to kick things off, can I just ask each of you to basically introduce yourselves professionally, your businesses, and of course, why you took the decision to come and issue the stablecoins natively on Concordium. So look, maybe we start with same order. Andy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. Good to be here. Literally, given I was stepping off a plane just over an hour ago, so it's nice to come onto the stream. So yeah, Andrew McKenzie, I'm the founder and CEO, as Mike touched on, of Agant. We kicked things off just over a year ago, really off the back of a combination of different things, which I won't go into too much detail. But really, we feel that 2025 is the year for non-US dollar stablecoins. The growth in the market. I mean, I don't know if anyone follows that further, but they would have seen his tweet yesterday about the rise in non-US dollar stablecoins, growing 115% since January. So we really feel the time is now for us to bring them to the market. In terms of having a relationship with Concordium, I think it's quite clear to us that, in particular, the growth of non-US dollar stablecoins is going to come from institutional adoption. And the reality is that, institutions and institutional clients won't move money or treasury flows onto rails that they can't trust. Anonymity and regulatory uncertainty plays in, quite a big part in their decision-making process. And also as both yourself and Boris have already touched on, the counterparty risk that comes from smart contracts. Being able to have the token at protocol level is really, really important. I guess also specifically for us, there's a number of other reasons, but also the identity layer that we can integrate with on Concordium, giving some of the opportunities that lie sort of within the UK market is a really important part of the puzzle for us to solve as well.
Fantastic, thanks, Andy. Arpan, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, Mike, Boris, and the rest of the Concordium team, thanks so much for having us. We're really, really excited, not just to join the stream, but to be part of sort of the Concordium journey from a very early stage. I'll introduce myself quickly. I'm pretty boring, so I'm Arpan. Have started my career in TradFi, as most people do in this space. Spent time at places like McKinsey, Goldman. Got tired of kind of the big business, big company life, and started on my entrepreneurial journey. So I actually built a digital bank in the UK, got really tired of regulators, and came over to Web3, where I helped scale one of the largest prop trading firms in crypto. We were trading a couple of trillion a year, and then really wanted to grow and move the conversation in terms of the crypto ecosystem forward, which prop firms don't really do. So that's how I ended up at Noon. The entire premise of Noon, I think, is that we think that stablecoins up until this point lag in a couple of different things. So we built Noon to focus on two things. One, to be the most intelligent stablecoin in the world, and two, to be the most fair stablecoin in the world. Those are two pretty big words. What do those mean? Intelligent to us means a stablecoin that will offer the highest, safest through cycle yield at any point in the market, because we want to help, even if it's in a small part, to be part of the journey to move the world away from the reserve currency being fiat to the reserve currency being yield bearing. And there's lots and lots of positive reasons why we think this is a net positive for the world. The second key element about Noon is it's the fairest stablecoin in the world. And we did this because we got a little bit tired of seeing a lot of stablecoins extracting a lot of value from their users or from the product they built to either themselves, to early investors, early backers, VCs, whatever you have it. And it really took away, I think, from the decentralization that the industry promised, but also kind of the leveling of the playing field that we thought that the ethos of blockchain and crypto was all about. So we built Noon entirely by ourselves, self-funded, so we don't have any VCs, KOLs, investors on our cap table. And that allows us not only to return 90+% of our raw returns to our users, but it also allows us to return over 80%, or distribute, I should say, over 80% or up to 80% of our governance tokens to our users. We've just launched our public beta. We're between sort of 25 and 30 million TVL, and we're really excited about this next phase of our growth. Thanks, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks, Pan. Julian, move over to yourself if I can, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everyone. Julian did, as everyone, most of my career in trading in equity derivatives. Was a late jumper into crypto 2022. And 2023, we co-founded Deep Blue. And Deep Blue is bringing a stablecoin solution, not just a stablecoin as a messenger. It's really trying to come with a full solution for corporations mainly in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. So very, very focusing on that part of the world. Could be cross-border remittances, could be payments, global payments, or treasury solutions. Very catering for that part of the needs. And as Boris was saying, there's 2.8 trillions on one side of the wall, and there's about 600 trillions on the other side of the wall. Just trying to create some bridges across crypto and the traditional finance, as we say. And why Concordium? The team is great. I've known them for quite many years. And the programmability, I think, is definitely this stablecoin 2.0, where you start being smarter, avoid counterparty risk, avoid technical risk. And that's really why we think is the next 5 years of the stablecoin. You can, whether it be a treasury, whether it be making payments, automate, minimize risk, and be much more efficient in the way you manage money in the end. So that's Deep Blue and DBSD as a stablecoin. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Julian. And then again, last but not least, Borja, please. You're muted for some reason, unless that's just on my side here. Now we can. There we go. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
Borja. You go.
All right. Hi, Mike. Thank you for having us here, to you and the entire Concordium team. And hello to everyone, to all my peers. I'm Borja Burguillos, and I'm a Spaniard but living in the UAE in Dubai for a long time now. I'm the founder of the AEDx. We are a UAE-based initiative focused on bringing stability and efficiency of the coins to the MENA market, Middle East and North Africa. AEDx is unique in the sense that embodies a stable coin for good, for a better world. This is how we like to name it. We believe that financial innovation carries a responsibility to drive as well positive change, right? So we try to make an impact with the launching of AEDx, okay, which is an AED, which is the local currency from the UAE, PEG stablecoin. This is a very important as well, a relevant topic for all the countries in the region, having a strong stable coins. And the reason a stable coin is really, it was born, it is really because we want to build and we want to empower financial inclusion and as well, fuel sustainable economic growth across the region, okay, starting from the UAE, but we want to target the MENA region. And also, I think we are different from the sense as well because we want to reinvest a significant, portion of all the revenues that we generate into social causes and initiatives, that really help all the communities, that we serve here. So we want to help really, like people with special needs, like different other social causes and actions, okay? And our inspiration to issue, AEDx natively in Concordium, it is coming from the unique approach, guys, that I believe that, you help us to address, the obstacles that we have with the stablecoin adoption, specifically their protocol level ID layer, okay, which enables the accountability and compliance needed for mainstream acceptance. This is very important, specifically, in the MENA region, because all the compliance-related, topic, it is very sensitive. And we do believe that with what you are building, guys, and your vision, it is really pretty much aligned with what we want to do with AEDx. So, yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the intro, gents, and a pretty diverse group, right, in terms of the GTMs you guys are thinking about. But look, let me move on to more specific questions in terms of kind of the underlying businesses and what you're looking to get out of all this. So maybe Andy, again, I'll kind of go same order and start with yourself if I can. So in terms of Agant's GBPA, obviously aiming to transform GBP settlements, etc. How do you guys see Concordium actually helping you strengthen the regulatory alignment and the financial institution adoption in the UK? Like, where are you guys seeing the traction right now?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question, and I think in order to really go into it to sort of the fullest degree, you almost need to take a step back and understand what we're trying to achieve as an organization and as a business, and how the use cases for GBPA and sort of the infrastructure that we're trying to build in the UK is maybe different to sort of crypto. And I think sort of the good place to start is that we very much view ourselves as a fintech that is integrating blockchain technology as opposed to a crypto business. And one of the reasons for that is that the play is slightly different in the UK. What the City of London, what regulators, what the UK government and Treasury want to see isn't another Tether. Tether is Tether. It will exist. It will do its own thing. They want to see a level of innovation that is going to benefit, the UK financial system sort of more wholly. And in order to do that, there's certain things that a traditional decentralized blockchain can accommodate that they would like to see. I guess I've sort of touched on early, but the counterparty risk from smart contract exposure is massive. And if we're looking at bringing pension funds and asset managers, etc., on chain, tokenizing money market funds, the UK government's talking about tokenizing its own gilts, its own debt. They can't do that they can't afford for there to be any kind of vulnerability like that can exist. So that's quite an important part to us, is that protocol level token, and I guess the compliance with programmability that exists. The regulators see that as quite an attractive option, and so for us, it actually opens a lot more doors than it would potentially close, in terms of how that identity layer and sort of compliance layer could be viewed sort of in a more sort of decentralized ecosystem. So yeah, I mean, for us, there being a level of accountability and that layer that gives banks and asset managers that certainty that they need is quite important to us. But yeah, I guess also just to touch on the identity layer as well, in sort of more retail use cases, we see a lot of opportunity with certain types of organizations and certain types of applications that are very popular sort of within the particularly within younger age populations within the UK, where having that level of certainty that person that says they're someone is actually that person can make a real difference and be quite attractive to those merchants that are maybe having problems with underagers or participants not being who they necessarily say they are. So yeah, I mean, I think just to tie it off, risk departments don't want smart contract exposure. It's just not something that's gonna cut the mustard for them. But also, the level of programmable logic at protocol level is, and there not being any third-party smart contracts, as Boris touched on quite clearly in his introduction, is really key for us, and is really key for the participants that we see a high degree of growth in terms of what we're building. So yes, although we're taking GBP on chain and non-US dollar stablecoins on chain, it's slightly different to maybe what traditional stablecoins have been trying to achieve. And I guess that kind of brings me on to the kind of traction that we're seeing right now, and I think I've kind of touched on it throughout what I've discussed, but it's very much traditional finance moving on chain because they can solve one or two really specific problems or bugbears that they currently have, whether it's cost, speed, or just general settlement times that they're looking to cut down on. So we're not necessarily trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not necessarily trying to create a new form of finance. We're just trying to take what happens in finance currently and do it in a better way. Our play has always been, compliance first, taking regulation, head on, as opposed to trying to circumvent it, because we feel that that's the way that you're going to get, you know, the level of adoption that we're seeking to achieve with what we're trying to build. So yeah, I mean, for us, it's not just a tech choice. It's also, you know, it's a regulatory enabler, and it's also an adoption enabler, and it helps us turn, you know, institutional interest into real world adoption.
Perfect. Thanks, Andy. And yeah, it's interesting, right? Depending on which lens you put over this, the anonymity factor of kind of the space in general either kind of looks like a feature or a bug, depending on whose seat you're sitting in, right? Depending on how you think about this. But look, let me move on. Thank you very much. Up and back over to yourself. So look, obviously, Noon, you mentioned this, right? Positions is the most intelligent and first stablecoin. Like, how does Concordium's PLT infrastructure actually potentially unlock opportunities for Noon in the future, especially regarding kind of specific use cases or adoption of Noon itself? I mean, you obviously saw a lot of the market back over on the dexterity guys, right? 2 trillion is a huge number. You know this market. So look, how do you guys see this?
Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting. And frankly, part of the reason I'm so excited about this partnership is actually about one of those 2 sort of core aspects of Noon, our intelligence, right? So let me first focus on deep dive a little bit about what that means to us and why that's so important. And then I'll talk about why I think Concordium and Noon together can really move the conversation forward quite significantly.
Please.
Right? So the reason I think our intelligence is so important, the reason why I think having the highest yield-bearing stablecoin, again, doing this very safely, securely, etc., is key, is because we want to help, again, even if it's a small part of kind of the journey, to going away from the reserve currency of the world being fiat to the reserve currency of the world being yield-bearing. Why do we think this is so important? Because again, even if it's in a small part, we think that access to, or easy access to, this dual class asset, right? So a currency that is both liquid and yield bearing will make a massive difference in a lot of normal retail users' lives. Why? Because we've seen over the last few decades how the gap between the haves and the have-nots of this world have continued to grow. And part of those reasons is because the haves, the really large corporations, the high net worth individuals, they have access to this kind of dual class asset that they can use liquidly, but can also continue to earn them yield whenever they're not using it. Unfortunately, most of us, the have-nots, don't have similar access. So we have to choose. And unfortunately, we end up always choosing, or most often choosing, for a deflationary asset that is cash, or an asset that doesn't appreciate as much as inflation, which is sort of, say, your average savings rate product in your banks, to be used in your bank account. And that always means that against inflation, you're losing money. So that's why I think having this kind of asset, as Noon provides the world, a yield-bearing liquid asset that you can hold and you can spend composably anywhere you want, is going to be a game changer. It's going to help at least stop this gap from narrowing, or from growing, maybe even narrow this gap, and be a great social good for the world. Now, the reason why I think this partnership with Concordium is so important is because there aren't many people who have a holistic approach to solve this big, huge opportunity that we face in terms of bringing payments and the blockchain together. Of course, we have individual protocols who are trying to do this, but from a blockchain level, I think that's what you need, because you need a whole array of protocols, stakeholders, both from the TradFi world as well as the crypto world, to work together to make this happen. And the types of things that Mike, Boris, and the rest of the Concordium team have talked about today, the lack, or the sort of the security layer, the doing away with the anonymity, the PLT infrastructure, all of these are key building blocks, but that's not all that's needed. And I know that the Concordium team has a lot more on its roadmap to make sure that a stablecoin like us can get access to the most wide distribution channel. So for example, banks, be it challenger banks, neobanks in the emerging markets, or mainstream banks in the developed world. If those banks can easily and safely access stablecoins, yield-bearing stablecoins like us, that's a game changer. And I think that's how this relationship really will reach sort of the broadest extent that it can by combining the yield-bearing nature of our stablecoin and the focus that Concordium has on the payment space.
Love it. Thank you, Open. Appreciate it. So next question, guys, over to Julian. Look, BBUSD focusing on Asia, Africa, LATAM corridors, etc. How do you guys see Concordium actually enabling secure value transfer across jurisdictions, or if not there, like, where do you think the largest value add from the Concordium side is with regards to Deep Blue, please?
Thanks, Mike. First, I start saying that the processing money should not be a burden, but it's actually a big burden for everyone, from consumer to corporations, processing payments, global payments, even more so, remittances. So every time you touch money, become administrative, becomes slow, becomes painful, becomes expensive. So what we're trying to do at Deep Blue is to make that processing for businesses that have become more global, more international, more complex. They have many jurisdictions, they have many currencies. They reference back usually into US dollar, still the reserve currency, which we are denominated into. So those companies have become extremely complex, whether it be trading houses, commodity players, remittance companies, payment companies, like multiple jurisdictions, multiple entities, inter-affiliate transactions, different currencies, complex currencies, restricted currencies. So that's world is becoming highly complex, and highly complex means time-consuming, expensive, big teams, and this is not the core what they do really for a living. Money is sort of a sub ancillary product to their core businesses. So we're trying to really make it T0, instantaneous, atomic settlement. A little cliche, but we're getting to that time frame and frequency and latency, and it's really to try to make processing payments something much more simple for businesses and in the end for the end users and the consumers. So programmability for us, we're happy to collaborate with Concordium, is part of this element of making the money being processed smarter, better for all those companies. Whether it be payroll, whether it be inter-affiliate, you need to have this feature in the next few years, because this is becoming so complex and it's becoming a cost center for those companies. Programmability for us is a critical next step forward. So that's clear. So in the spirit of customer experience, this is one of the features we really like within your offering. Now the question is, where do you put this programmability? Do you put it at the smart contract level? Do you put it at the money level? And yeah, there's a lot of plus and cons, but there's a lot of reluctance from those large companies and even SMEs to rely, to trust smart contract. And for wrong the right reason, but this is something that still do not fully comprehend. Even it's audited, even though it's gone through due diligences. So I think the world of traditional finance and large corporation, again, potentially even smaller ones, will be much more comfortable with the programmability being done and centered around the money itself. So I think those two elements that Concordium has been working on are making our view of the stablecoin can become a adopted currency across multiple jurisdictions, multiple needs, and I can name 25 needs why people need money. It's not just paying people, it's repatriating profits, CapEx, OpEx, you need money at some point to move it around. And we believe this is a very strong solution that you guys are providing. So very happy to work with you on that.
Thank you very much, Julian. Okay, guys, so look, last direct question, or kind of project specific question maybe, and to Borja, of course. So obviously over on the AEDx side, you guys are tackling real world impact, ESG focus, remittance, and integration with UAE institutions. How does Concordium support the licensing path and vision for the regional expansion over there? Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I think you alluded to it earlier on, but any more you can share on this, please, Borja?
Yeah, sure. So let me dig a little bit deeper about what the reason we exist. Okay, I think it's very important. The reason we decided to launch this stablecoin in the UAE. Okay, so basically there are four main issues that the governments, the countries, they are facing, especially in the UAE. The first one is like, well, it's becoming a massive trading hub. It's already very big, but it's really becoming like bigger. We all know that a lot of people are coming. Trading it gets really increasing, and they are worried about really like they want to push the trading in their local currency. Then there is as well a geostrategic issue. This is one of the main concerns, right? Because almost 99% of all the trading, right, in stable coins is done in USD, right? We know that. This is actually a big issue as well in Europe and in many other regions that we still don't know how they are gonna tackle this. Then also another important point is that UAE, most of us living there, we are expats, okay, and then there is a massive outflow of remittances to other countries as well. So this is as well a big problem as well. And the last one is the lack of ESG. So well, the GCC countries, they are not precisely very well known for ESG measures. So we thought that by trying to create something new, innovative, we could help them, to tackle all these four issues. So that's why we decided to launch AEDx with the social good angle, right? It's like we're trying to help them to push, the trading in a local stable coin, trying as well, to promote this, from the strategic point of view. Then as well, it will help them as well to promote the AED, out of the UAE, and then as well with all the social causes that we could invest. Well, this will really help them to promote as well and to improve their ESG, levels. So that's why we decided to go on in AED, and then hopefully we would like to keep doing the same in other countries in the MENA region, probably in the CIS countries as well. Okay. And well, as I mentioned earlier, right, in the end, Concordium architecture directly supports, our licensing and expansion process by mitigating the key adoption barriers. Okay, so in the end, the Concordium protocol level ID layer is critical, to provide comfort to the regulators. Okay, because the regulators, they are very, very, key in order to get a license, because in order to launch any stable coin in the UAE, and now they are passing another bills in other countries, you need to have a license, and they are very worried about that, right? Compliance, KYC processes, AML, this is key. So I believe that as of today, you guys, Concordium is the only one that could provide, the full tools to do this and pass the required regulator scrutiny. Okay, so yeah, I mean, Concordium as well, scalability and security are essential for our vision. Again, not only for the UAE, but for our regional expansion, and also enabling us to handle the increased transaction volumes at this level and securely. Okay. So yeah, that's the reason that we are very happy to be on board, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Borja. So, okay, guys, look, a couple of rapid fire questions for everybody just to go around the room. And I'm conscious we're running over time a little bit here because the answers were so detailed, and appreciate you gents sharing those with us. But look, from your perspectives, and maybe we'll go to similar order as we did before, but look, from your perspectives, what are the largest obstacles that you're actually seeing to stablecoin adoption? And then ultimately, of course, if we can tie that back to the specifics in and around Concordium, whether it be the ID layer or the programmable talking about money at the base layer. How are you guys actually seeing the obstacles at this moment in time when you're out there, obviously doing your BD calls, etc.? So, Andy, what are you seeing as the biggest adoption blockers over here on the UK side?
At the moment, I'd say it's compliance and KYC. And that's kind of twofold. That's I'd say a slight nervousness from the institutional part, but it's also probably the slow speed with which trying to say it diplomatically, the slow speed with which regulators are acting and also approving firms to act within the UK. I mean, I know some people that submitted regulatory applications in February of last year and still aren't approved. That's no way to allow, to allow or promote, an innovative, pro-growth, fintech economy. So, we're approaching the regulators and we're saying, look, how can we innovate in a compliant fashion? And we're also saying that we're also communicating that message to the clients that we want to work with. And really what they're wanting is clarity on what compliance looks like and what regs look like, but also they like that identity layer as well. That's quite attractive to them. The ability to geofence, the ability to do status checks or age checks. And I think for us, having the programmable money that Concordium allows us to interact with removes a lot of those issues. I'm not sure if it's been touched on, but we have things like the travel rule that we have to comply with, and things like that can potentially be solved through using Concordium and operating on top of it. So for us, I mean, it's really an education piece at the moment, and solving that, and we're actually seeing that message and that sort of the tone of the conversation improve with sort of the additions that we can bring into the conversation.
Fantastic, thank you. Arpan, same question, please. Same question for everybody, but let's go around. Arpan next.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So I think I definitely agree with what Andy said. KYC, legislation, regulation, are I think very clear and present reasons and obstacles for stablecoin adoption. But I think if we step back, right, and we think, okay, when we say stablecoin adoption, we mean stablecoin adoption. I think we all on this call in Concordium all agree that we're talking about mass adoption, right? This isn't just crypto adoption. This is mass retail adoption. What's really stopping us? Obviously, I think regulation is slowing it down. But I think very easy and clear use cases for the retail public to embrace and adopt, that hasn't actually been very clear yet. And I think this is not just a comment about stablecoins, but I think that this is probably more broadly about our industry as a whole. We have, I think, it was funny, I really resonate, and I really say something similar to what Boris said at the beginning, that blockchain technology has gotten really complicated. Everyone has to understand every single detail. And if that's the barrier to entry, if that it takes that level of understanding for people to actually adopt this technology, it's just never going to happen, right? I think simplifying stablecoins, and I think by that I mean making it super easy for people to use, making it, one-click buy, one-click sell on your phone. That's really the use case that we need to be aiming for. It can't be, create a wallet, go to a DApp, swap it on a DEX, and, do 17 other things to generate yield. It can't be that complex. And I think that's where this is, again, really exciting, because I don't think stablecoins can do this themselves. I think that we need an entire ecosystem of partners, and crucially, we need blockchains to promote this type of ecosystem, to make sure that we are incredibly focused. And this is, I think, exactly what Concordium is trying to do, is focus specifically on payments, which is a hundreds of trillions of dollar use case, and bring that simplified adoption, or those simplified rails between TradFi payments and crypto stablecoins, and make that one. I think that'll be really interesting. Sorry if that was a little bit winding. I thought I had a quick answer. I really didn't, but I hope that was helpful.
No, I completely agree, right? Abstract away the complexity, condense the stack, and make the UX better, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. Completely agree. Okay, Julian, please.
Honestly, man,
Go on.
could you just answer all the questions for me from now on, Mike? That was a much cleaner answer than mine.
Yours is much better, buddy. Over to you, Julian.
Yeah, Mike, do you mind if I mention three
Please.
things? I'll be quick for each of them. The first one is education. I mean, talking businesses, you'd be amazed how many of those businesses don't really understand stablecoin. They have all those cliches, highly complex, highly dangerous. They see the problems that arise almost every day. So since really a lot of education of why it's actually good to use stable coins. And I agree with what's been said. Simplicity is critical. If you make it too complicated for whatever in life, people tend not to use it. So I think it's education and simplicity. That's my number one point. The second point, I think that's important to me, to Deep Blue. The line between regulation and highly regulated environment, and the line between no KYC, permissionless, that line is quite subtle, because we need a framework of regulation to a degree, because you can't get the 600 trillions available to touch something that's totally unregulated. But at the same time, and that's the dilemma to me, money needs to circulate freely to a large degree, so you can't constrain the money too much. So I think that line is very subtle, and you can't go too extreme either way. So that's my second point. That will definitely increase the adoption if we find that line. And last one is, it's been said again, but use case. If we demonstrate collectively through the AED, the non-dollar stablecoin, our US dollar stablecoin, the yield bearing, that we can collectively, as an industry as well, demonstrate to the users, as a big consumer or corporation, that it's better, because again, safer, cheaper, whatever, but it's better. That's a no-brainer. But we need to demonstrate that clearly, and it has not been demonstrated yet so clearly. I agree, it's been an on-ramp, off-ramp, great, but this is not really revolutionary. We need to tell all those users this is why you should be using it. So, sorry, long, but that's my last point. I'm done with it.
I couldn't agree anymore, right? People aren't going to adopt stable coins for the sake of thinking stable coins are this new fancy thing, right? There needs to be value in the UX and the UI for them. So I completely get it. Okay, Borja, last one.
Yeah, so well, I would say that I agree with all of you guys. I think you have said like everything, and just adding that, yeah, I mean, for me, it's like basically the largest obstacles, right? So to get these massive adoptions are first trust, right? And this is probably given by the financial institutions and governments as well. Then the regulatory clarity, which I do believe that in the next 24 months, we are going to have a very comprehensive framework in many countries about that. And then, which is the most important one that I think you were mentioning, Julian, which is like, the need to seamlessly integrate, stable coins with the existing financial infrastructure. Because in the end, it's like about, I mean, it's just about a method of payment, right? I don't care if I'm paying with this or if I'm paying with that. It's just about making the payments. And of course, I will do it because it's better, it's faster, cheaper, and all that. But I just want to click, right? So we are not there yet, but we will get there, I think, with all the infrastructure and everything and that we are working on, especially you guys as well, Concordium on this. And I think this is going to be massive, and it's probably the first massive business case of blockchain, right? After Bitcoin.
Let's hope so, right? It's not going to happen overnight, but you need the right partners at the table for it ultimately, right? That's why we're all here at the end of the day. Okay, fantastic. Look, last question, short and sharp. Anything you guys want to share about the roadmap as kind of 2025 looks for you guys? Any interesting milestones you want to highlight to the broader audience? I think we've got a pretty large amount of people viewing this right now. So anything you want to share, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, for us, really, it's getting live and getting launched. I think that's one of the frustrating things about doing sort of a regulatory play is that you can't just do things. You can't just ship it when the product's up and running and ready to go. So for us, we're quite eager to get the product out there and actually to get GBPA circulating within sort of the financial system within the UK and also further afield. We see FX and remittance as two areas that we really want to expand on, and we're really excited about the fact that we can potentially bring FX on chain. Cable's one of the most traded currency pairs globally. There's no reason why that can't also happen on chain between financial institutions as well. And also sort of more widely as well, integrating with the ID layer and Concordium, there's some really, really cool things that we've got cooking there. And yeah, so basically, yeah, just get live and get cooking on some cool stuff.
Love it. Thanks, Andy. Arpan?
So I think roadmap wise, we'll talk short, medium, and long term. As we always do. Short term, I think we're in our public beta right now. So growing the product utility of the token on chain, et cetera, slowly. As I said, we're at about 25 million in TVL and hoping to sort of multiply that by a few orders of magnitude in the next few months. Medium term, we're looking at the governance token TGE in late Q2, early Q3 this year. That should be really interesting and really emphasize how democratic and fair we want to be as people actually see us actually giving real raw rewards to our governance tokens holders, which is going to be one of the first instances in stablecoin space that we're able to do so. That's probably going to be our midterm focus. And then, frankly, a long-term focus is very much aligned to this conversation. We, as I said, want to try to be part of the journey to get a yield-bearing stablecoin in the hands of everyone in the world. So distribution is really going to be key to the long term. And a large part of that is the payment space. How do we make sure that every single person can use stablecoins, yield-bearing stablecoins or otherwise, as part of their day-to-day payments transactions or payments ecosystem is going to be key, which is why we think that this partnership with Concordium is going to be really interesting for us in the long term.
Brilliant. Thank you. Julian?
Yeah, listen, going to be very simple. We have a dozen of users, all corporations. I want them to really have a pleasant experience, grow and scale what they're doing through the stable coins, not just as a messenger. I think the token shouldn't be minimized and reduced to its most simple expression, which is a messenger in the end. It should really be coming as a solution. So if those 15 clients say, listen, we're saving money, we're saving time, that's really the short-term map. And the more medium long-term is when a complex subscription model, so typically a Netflix or those kind of companies, come and say, thanks to Concordium and DBSD, we managed to get a good solution. So that would be the 3-year celebration.
Looking forward to that one. Perfect. Okay, Borja.
Sure. So our roadmap for AEDx deployment is focused on driving real-world adoption by addressing the needs of both institutions and individuals in the UAE and the entire MENA region. And in the near term, we are prioritizing regulatory approvals. Okay, this is important. We need to get first the license, the pre-approval, and also strategic integrations with established financial institutions plus large multinationals. Okay, and Concordium ID layer is going to be really essential for this meeting because, again, the regulatory requirements are very, very strict in the UAE. And if you ask me more about like how I visualize, I like to visualize things, and then you can go towards the final goal. I visualize really companies trading in AEDx, right, and holding AEDx as well, as part of their treasury. And also I visualize, migrants, expats, sending AEDx back to their homes. And I visualize really the users just paying for a Karim, like a cup here in the UAE, or for paying for groceries in the AEDx by the end of 2025, beginning of 2026. So yeah, this is we have an ambitious
roadmap.
Exciting year ahead for everybody, right? Okay, look, gents, thank you very much. I mean, I had drafted some closing remarks here, but I think you guys have kind of said it all, right? You've laid this all out pretty clearly for the full community. I mean, the only closing remark I'll make here is, and again, it's not so much to you guys as the panelists, but more to the audience, is really the same what excites me about having you four specifically on board. I mean, I think for me, it's that you aren't simply dreaming or visualizing, as you put it there, Borja, just to have the stablecoin used for yield farming on Aave or collateralizing kind of derivative positions on the exchanges. You've all got that vision of where does actually the real world come into this? Where does that bridge intersect? And how do we actually think about driving the adoption forward, right? Fundamentally, I'm not going to kind of go on about this point, but that's what each and every single one of you are doing. And for me, that's why I'm excited to have you all on as strategic partners. So look, thank you very much to the audience for listening to the panel. Thank you to the panelists for participating. And of course, to the audience, I encourage you to kind of watch the journey for each of the four guys on screen here via their Twitter socials, etc., etc. So please do. And yeah, thank you very much for participating. And I'll hand over back to Boris for the rest of the town hall. But guys, thank you. It's been great.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Can anybody hear? Oh yeah, I think now. It's actually sad. Like, why didn't we stop it here? Now everybody has to listen to fat face here saying words. I mean, this is.
I'm also surprised and happy with Mike's choice of partners. Everybody had a pool.
Yeah. So look, thank you very much to the guys here also from my side. I think I said this at the beginning. You kind of put a strategy in place and you hope it resonates with the market, and to have people with a background like those guys, and I urge you to kind of look them up, from Julian up and Borja and our good friend Christ. Now I'm like looking at Mike's face and I don't know the name. Agant. Andy. I wanted to say Nick, but I didn't want to say anything. Andy.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Sorry, Andy. I'm having to deal with a lot of names. Look, we're going to do a real old school staple here with regards to our town hall number 2. It's not like it's the longest standing tradition, but we're always keen in order to have community questions. And we actually put this out. There were like, I think, over 500 questions that were sent in. It was rather crazy, and it actually is being curated as we speak. I can see things moving around. So I'm just going to start asking those questions. I'm just going to call you guys out, whoever is supposed to take this, and let's try and keep this short because we're holding people up here for a long time. So how about offering CCD in pairs other than USDT? Mike, this is obviously for you, heading the ecosystem.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, look, we did quite recently, over the last 2-3 weeks, something like this. We actually added a USDC pair over on Bit2Me. It's something we will look to do more of in the future, but ultimately you just want to be careful about splitting the liquidity over too many pairs in the interim. So it's something we will do. But yeah, we just added USDC with Bit2Me quite recently.
Yep. And there is much more. Look, the ecosystem, we need to grow. There are all the conversations ongoing right now, just to kind of say, keep your eyes peeled. The bigger the community is, the easier those conversations are. So keep up the good work, everybody. Only answer if bullish, right? I'm going to answer that one then. Do we anticipate private institutional sale round? And please confirm expected sale price is way above current price levels. All right. So look, this completely depends on how the next couple of weeks are going to play out. There are other big announcements, in terms of timing, they don't necessarily line up with us having a nice town hall. This is about as big in terms of an announcement, which we kind of done. It's kind of a 48-hour announcement cycle right now, with, of course, those 4 stablecoins having chosen us. That's the big announcement, really. There are a couple of other things that I'm going to mention in a minute, but look, we have to kind of see of how things are going to pan out over the course of the next couple of months. Even though the project has been around for a long time, I mean, if you look at it now for the first time, you go like, holy shit, like what went wrong here? Building stuff like this and the entire new strategy that we have put in place this takes time. So I really want to wait to kind of have something done before I see, everything moving in the right direction. So I don't think there is anything that we need to talk about before June, July. There is a lot of interest. That's the only thing I can tell you. I'm getting called left, right, and center. But with us having gone into real execution mode, specifically in and around with the release of the PLTs, which is going to drive quite something, there is no point of kind of talking about this at length. Can Concordium Wallet integrate with existing identity providers like Facebook, LinkedIn, or other platforms for authentication, or would it be more efficient to architect a new social? And that question disappeared. Oh no, it's back now. And a new social. Can you guys stop working in this? Whoever is working in this live here. A new social platform leveraging Concordium's identity framework. It seems like techie. Peter, do I need to repeat? You have it.
That's a techie question. No, I got it. Using kind of Facebook and LinkedIn identity providers. I mean, as far as I know, they don't actually require that for everybody. It's not mandatory, right? So it's only in certain cases you would do that, and I have a feeling the process is exactly the same as what we do anyway. You just do the kind of same identity process. So no is a short answer. We haven't got it on the roadmap at the moment.
But I think it's important to mention it's a modular architecture, so we can plug in IDPs as needed. So
absolutely,
it depends use case related of what wants to be used. So
correct.
I want to add this. Let's take this one. Is Concordium in conversations with bank consortia to support them with their payment rails? Perhaps internal, like discussed in the tokenized podcast. Conversation with bank, Mike.
Sure. So, I mean, look, are we speaking to banks and consortiums? So, look, consortiums, not so much, but individual banks, yes. Look, ultimately, the value prop we have has definitely been well received across the board, right? I've not been in a single conversation where anyone said, like, I don't see the value in this, and it's not a serious contender. But look, for anyone in the audience who's ever tried to go through a sales cycle of a large enterprise, never mind a bank, these things aren't going to happen overnight. So, yeah, we're speaking to these guys, but it's going to take some time before anything there happens. And yeah, that's a short version.
I'm saying this again. It's 58 days since we've started this journey. Give us some time, peeps. This is a good one. Why do we only mostly see Boris and not Varun, Mike, and Peter on AMAs and X?
We're here.
It's not my fault. This is marketing. Okay, go on.
Right. Well, quite simply because one, Boris is great. So we're like, okay, who do we put? Let's put the greatest person. But I guess the question is like, yes, we all have responsibilities to promote, build, and champion the project. But it's quite important we find the right balance. Obviously, Boris being the CEO, there is an expectation, press and others have, and he has to lead from the front. But, you saw Mike's wonderful performance today. You saw Mike attending and joining the AMA last week with Bitpanda. I've joined one with a partner last month. Peter was there on one of the X Spaces. So you'll always see more of Boris, but as we grow, we will continue to add. And I would just also call out, I think each one of us who's also listening to the call and in the community, you should take this responsibility of championing the project as much in your own ways. And we would love that.
Cool. Yeah. The guys can tell you of how excited I am about this. But it has to be done. So to what extent is my God, this is a long question. Do I need to take this? To what extent is the management focusing on economies like the yen? Even though dollarization of the world economy via USD stablecoins is happening, we also observe global economies exploring new partnerships with, e.g., China-centric. Issuing yen on Concordium chain would offer extreme early mover advantage to Chinese companies or infrastructure trusted by Europeans, and open a whole lot of new opportunities next to the expected euros and USD stables. I'll take that one. Look, we're a blockchain, guys. We're open for all. There are conversations. This is a global issue. Again, we're PayFi. We want to solve for payments. We want to solve for stablecoin usage, actual use cases, just like we discussed, like you heard from those four guys. The very first batch. Again, extremely grateful and thank you very much, guys. But at the end of the day, we're global. We're a layer one. and it needs to be used by wherever you are. There are no geographic boundaries, so I think that should answer it. De-dollarization or dollarization is a huge topic, right? We can have a whole other town hall just around this, what that means geopolitically, BRICS nations, US, like the full Monty. But at the end of the day, look, it's use cases that are driving this. It's the issues like the ones that you see here, and also the big ones. I hope a couple of the big ones are also listening here after the conversations that we've had. So look, at the end of the day, global remit to make this short. What are the plans for the wallets? Ledger is only supported on desktop wallet, which is lacking behind. With Ledger support, will Ledger support be added to CryptoX, or will CCD be integrated into established wallets? That's Peter all over.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of work going on wallets at the moment. You'll hear about them in the coming kind of weeks and months. We have third-party wallets which we've engaged with. We also have obviously our work that was going on the Ledger, as you mentioned. The Ledger app is no longer in development mode, right? That's a big achievement for us. It's there. You can download it. We're also working on extending that and moving that to the next level.
Okay, thank you, buddy. Thank God, a shorter question here. I skipped a couple. What tactics is the management team deploying to get more transactions in? Mike.
Sure. So, I mean, look, we're not going after, how do I word this? We're not going after transactions for transaction's sake, right, guys? Like it's a vanity metric at the end of the day. I mean, for us, any chain, or at least in my opinion here, any chain can splash the grant checkbook and get some existing use cases to port the business across to the chain, and then you'll see the transactions go up. But what does that really represent? It's relatively meaningless. For us, the transactions you'll see on Concordium are actually going to be those that represent real world adoption. Everything that you've heard here today, not from myself or Boris, but the issuers as well. For us, that comes in hand with both our roadmap and the intersection with the issuers roadmap. But ultimately, it's all going to represent real world adoption, not just congratulations, Evan, of 100,000 transactions because you gave somebody a grant. So, like, you're going to see a lot more of this into H2, but ultimately, it's going to go hand in hand with the roadmap.
100%. Are we still on timeline for geofencing and age verification in June? I think I touched on this, but Peter, you're building this stuff, so.
Yeah, look, I kind of said it at the beginning there. It's a big lift we're doing, right? We're doing 3 protocol updates in the 1 year. That's insane. I think a lot of the people that I've spoken about, they're like, you're crazy for doing it. We've already done the first one. Protocol 8 is out there. We're making great progress on the PLTs. So, you know, the short answer is yes, we are. This isn't a kind of a normal SaaS-based product, as I said, where you can just do lots of releases and kind of get away with it. It takes time, all right? And we're doing it. We're on track. And yeah, we'll get there.
Thank you. The turnaround in marketing is quite evident. Oh, God, we're blowing sugar up Varun's ass now. The Twitter is lit up in the last couple of months. The messaging is consistent across websites, social podcasts. Are there the regular blogs are going out? Not seen anything like that in such a short span, and that's bloody true. Amazing the work that the guys have done. So first of all, huge congratulations to whoever is responsible. Equally curious to know what is next.
Oh, that's a loaded question. But I am saving this question for my next performance review, Boris, just so that you remember. But yeah, look, first of all, thank you for appreciation, but you must understand this is not just marketing. Many things with tech, commercial, and marketing has to come together to make sure the story is out. It's told in the right place and the right time. As you heard, PayFi is a narrative we bet on. It was a tricky, difficult, but also, you know, in hindsight, a good decision. And we're just like building on that, right? Lots of fundamentals which were not in place, the website, the social channels, you know, even the flows, they're all fixed. And we're getting noticed by the press and the influencers, which is all great. What's next? Continue to do more of these, but scale it even further. So the team is quite excited with already all the outcomes that we have seen, but you know, the ambition is not to stop here, actually to go bigger and more. So you can expect much more of this. You can also expect us going to events. You can expect us more to be doing more of announcements. So yeah, keep watching the space, and thank you for the appreciation.
Can the team share how Concordium's zero-knowledge powered ID is being used in real-world scenarios like age-gated access, and what makes this breakthrough for privacy and compliance? Mike, or this is you, I guess, or Peter.
Yeah, sure.
Mike.
So,
Go on, Mike.
yeah, look, let me. Maybe this is one I'll ever share a little bit on, because it's actually probably one of the most, at least from my perspective, one of the most kind of interesting and relevant use cases that we've got at the moment. Yeah, no. Stay on the right side of it. Look, if you forget Concordium, forget blockchain, forget everything else, if you actually look at some of the higher risk industries that are out there, especially, and the one I'll kind of focus on here is kind of the adult content pornography industry. So if you look at this right now, a lot of these websites, you just have to kind of click, I am over 18, right? That's the age verification that these guys are doing. Then again, forgetting crypto, forgetting blockchain, if you've been following the headlines over the last 4, 5, 6 months, something like this, we're seeing a lot of these sites actually come under huge reg pressure and scrutiny, depending on the jurisdiction. It is jurisdiction specific, but I think there's now 17 states in the US where some of the larger content providers have actually had to take their sites down, cease the business, or massively scale this back. We've also got initiatives out in, I think France has done the same now. There's a couple of other European countries with regs pending. The UK has got regs pending. There've just been some proposals down in LATAM as well, all of which are orientated towards how do we better verify user ages to make sure minors aren't viewing ABCD content, right? So that's nothing to do with Concordium. That's already a real problem in the world for these businesses, and of course for the users as well in those 17 states, right? Now, if you think then about bringing it back to the question in terms of what are we doing to make sure those ZKP communications can actually be used, to me, that's probably one of the most short-term transactional use cases that could be out there, because ultimately when it comes down to it, you're solving a real world problem, which back to what we're talking about on the panel, people don't want to go through another ID check for the sake of it, right? People don't want to use stable coins for the sake of it. If you can actually look at a real world problem where you can turn around to the users and say, we can actually present you the same user experience, i.e. you can just one click verify that you are over 18 or over 21 or whatever it may be in the relevant jurisdictions, you can actually solve the real world use case and create demand for adoption outside of Web3. Like, so to me, it's kind of a long-winded answer. I know we're short on time, but yeah, this is one where I think there's very low-hanging fruit, and it's a real-world problem that's actually being solved, which is what blockchain is supposed to do.
Yeah, it's all about payments, guys. Whatever it is, and if you can verify things, this is the same for gaming, same for gambling, whatever it is. They're all under massive pressure, and currently we're the only proper solution if you strip out all this smart contract bullshit. But anyways. We really hope to see USDT, USDC, USD something or more coming to Concordium. Could the management team confirm that there is focus on allowing exchange withdrawals of USDT, USDC on Concordium chain to use cases and Concordium Crypto X wallet? This manner, the exchange would function as a bridge, anticipating broader bridge development with Concordium more publicly. Mike.
Sure, I'll try and chop that into two. I definitely understand the first part of the question. The second piece, let me take a swing at it. So, yeah, look, Boris has already said this. All of the major issuers, of course, we're in conversations with these guys. Now, I think I said this in the last town hall. Of course, when you're doing these sort of conversations and these sort of partnerships, things are under NDA. There are things you can't comment on. We can't just unilaterally decide to update the community on things as and when we would love to. Of course, we have to wait until there's a bilateral decision between us and said partners to be able to release anything. As a generic statement, that's true for everything that we're doing on the commercial side, certainly the conversations that are at scale. So I know people want to know, I know we're going to get this question. Trust us, we'll tell you as soon as we can, but posting in the channel isn't going to make us kind of breach an NDA. So look, that's kind of part one. Second piece is, I think, with regards to deposit withdrawal functionality and at the exchanges, and it's a use case there. Now, I won't overshare on this one, but we are working on something that's incredibly unique to actually remove some of the friction or a meaningful part of the friction as it relates to deposit and withdrawal functionality in and out of not just the exchanges, but any of that kind of infrastructure layer, whether it's the exchanges, the custodians, the wallets, whatever it may be. So we're working on something pretty unique there. And yeah, I'll just say more to follow for now, actually.
Yeah. It's not the sexiest topic, but holy shit, is it important. You will hear about it. Just as with stocks, it is important to see if the leadership of a company has skin in the game, and often important signals are given when leadership buys or sells shares at a particular time price. I'm not asking for a public disclosure of their holdings, but the market would probably be interested if the leadership at Concordium holds CCD and what percentage of CCD constitutes their respective crypto holdings. All right, I'm just going to take me on this. Let me put it this way. I actually bought into Concordium about 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago. So I had a great experience up until now, but now we're in our own. Now we're constituting our own fate. Long story short, yes, skin in the game is always important. That's what kind of, when you have 19-hour days, keeps you going. Apart from like solving for the bigger picture, I definitely have increased my bag. Let me put it that way. It's a normal proportion to my overall crypto holdings. I've been in the space for a long time, and I'm sure as hell not planning to sell anytime soon with everything that's going on. So, like any other crypto right now, it just happened. Like we had this wonderful little flush out, a wonderful little bear trap for anybody who's the first one that has to experience this. Congratulations, you now have been baptized for crypto. This will happen over and over again. But yeah, my crypto holdings have always been, I'm buying it and I'm not selling. It's I'll figure this out when I'm retired and I'm lying somewhere and I have time. But yeah, we are incentivized in order to do it. But there is absolute, which is the beauty about Concordium as well. You have the lockups. So. When is dollar peg being executed? Peter, I'll give you that one because this needs to be built.
Yeah, look, I think we in the previous town hall we spoke about kind of opening up the US market. That obviously creates great opportunities both in growth and obviously developers and building on the chain. I think the next logical thing is to go to the dollar peg. So we have every intention of getting that built and done, but kind of a bit later down the year.
For anybody who doesn't understand this, because I think there is a shit ton of people here, Concordium is quite unique in the sense that we actually peg every transaction to a fixed fiat amount.
Correct.
So right now it is 1 euro cent, but we're also considering or figuring out of how to have multi-pegs depending on the PLT. So since all those PLTs are issued natively, it's a very complex topic. It's technically extremely challenging, but the guys are working on it. So yeah, just to make this clear, if you send if you will send Noon or Deep Blue or Agant or AEDx from one wallet to the other, it's going to cost you 1 cent. Doesn't matter if it's $10,000 or $10. It's exactly the same amount. So this is being worked on right now, and we're kind of figuring out dollar peg and down the line multi-pegs or stuff.
Also means your fees don't change, right? So it's always the same fee.
It's
just
important,
constant, right?
Important
every transaction.
Exactly, which is important for real world adoption, because at the end of the day, you also think about sponsored transactions depending what the use case is, all sorts of stuff, and you can't have fluctuating like the other currencies. And this is where also our decentralized governance committee comes into play in order to kind of put them according to the use cases, which I think is only going to go down in terms of cost rather than up. So that's
the complexity.
Yeah, exactly. A bridge to be crossed down the line. What made the stablecoin issuers choose Concordium, and what are their specific plans on our chain? Do we really need to talk about this, Mike?
Kind of heard it.
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I know. Will the project ever get out of its kindergarten status? I can't believe I just read that one out.
It's a great question.
No, actually, we're currently gearing up to stop just screwing around in the sandpit and figuring out of how to play with tractors and diggers. Mate, like, I don't know what kind of question this is. We have a lot to achieve here, and I don't know, like, whoever you are, I'm getting quite direct on things like this because I shouldn't have read out this question. But it's like, at the end of the day, look, you should have your eyes and ears cleaned and just listen to what's happening here. But if this is something that doesn't resonate, good luck to you. A heartfelt fuck you very much for that question. And good luck with your next meme coin investment. Thank you very much, pal. Next, would you please consider listing on Bitvavo? The way of acquiring CCD on other exchanges is such a hassle. We know, man. I'm very sorry. We're working on this. Bitvarro uses Ideal, and it is hassle-free and very trustworthy, more than, for example, just sending money from some foreign banks and hope everything goes as planned. Ecosystem, Mike, this is for you.
Yeah, sure. Short answer here. Absolutely. I've known the Bitvarro team actually for quite some years, actually, from my previous roles. So yeah, I've always had the most kind of utmost respect for these guys. They do a great job. They're growing. So yeah, absolutely is a short answer.
Yeah, and you guys have to play your own part in this, dear community. It's just a matter of you want to see it on various venues. We're working hard, tirelessly, in order to kind of get it going. It's amazing of how, but at the end of the day, look, for me, code is truth. At the end of the day, our roadmap, our strategy is proving to be absolutely correct, which is the whole purpose of this town hall, to kind of get you excited around the fact of having to initiate a strategy and absolutely getting very, very sophisticated guys with their specific use cases and businesses convinced to choose Concordium rather than Solana, right? Or ETH. That's not like we're coin number 400 whatever. Like this is ultimately coming down to the fact of what we're building, what we have designed is resonating, and there is much more to come. Just give us more than 69 days. But you can do your part in order to make sure that access is getting there by making sure that you ping those guys and say, hey, list this. It would help. Yeah, we're working on this in tandem anyway. I'm going to stop. I'm going to do one now and then we'll stop. I hope that's okay, guys. Is there a marketing calendar where you plan announcements? How is it intertwined with tech and partnerships area to become even more proactive? Obviously, that's for you, Varun.
Well, if anybody thinks we're still doing things randomly, I'm actually very sad. But it's a question, so I will address it. Look, as you would have seen, most of us understand the industry. We understand the value of narrative, and we also understand the sequencing, which you've probably heard Boris talk a lot about. Mike, Peter, and I sit next to each other. We talk about it practically every day. Yes, there is a calendar, there is a roadmap. We evaluate on a weekly basis. And there is a huge amount of effort, not just in terms of when do things need to roll out, but also how and where, because we want to maximize what we have, and we want to basically take Concordium where it belongs. So yes, everything is done proactively. Everything is done with a plan. Yeah, we could do more. Absolutely, we will do more. But yeah, nothing is random.
No, it's like the guys know this. From day one when I hired them, I was like, the sequence is absolutely crucial, and without this triumph, like this triangle, just for everybody to understand that has ever run a business or is doing a business, in this instance here, I do not tolerate. If you want to build a business, and I've had the chance of being part of a journey to build a multi-billion-dollar business in crypto before, you basically, none of this works if those three departments are not joined by the hip. So none of those guys is taking a decision unilaterally without the other one being aware and subsequently having chimed in of saying like, no, let's wait. Like everything is discussed, which is an insane amount of work to track given of what we're doing here. So there are quite some interesting books to read about this as well. But at the end of the day, I'm driving over this like a as we say in German, wie eine Lokomotive, like a train. There is no way of wiggle room for the guys. So, and it's amazing of how those three are working together, which is why also this is going to be a success. It's not fat face here. It's those guys who are doing this in an incredible orchestrated way. It's mind blowing to watch, guys. Honestly. So, no more questions, right? I see more coming. No, I'm stopping now because this has been going on. Christ, we're like 1 hour 48 minutes. That's ridiculous.
One of the biggest streams.
Is it? I don't see the number, but obviously it must be like over 30,000 people or something.
It's 45,000, Boris.
Okay. Hi world. So look, at the end of the day, I really want to say just a couple of announcements that are quite important also with regards to that sequence that I've been talking about constantly. at the end of the day, the big announcement was this, right? The last 48 hours having pushed out, which is, I think, partially the reason why we have so many eyeballs on this. So well done to the team, and also thank you again to those day one partners that we now have that are building on Concordium for the right reasons. So we are going to do our part in order to make sure to get you guys going as much as possible as well, by not only giving you the tech, but anything else that we can do. And anybody else who's currently watching and thinking about it, get in contact. We will treat you, of course, with the same passion as we do everything. But one of the core things is, and I've learned this during my time in my previous role, is that you can kind of try and be the genius to say, this is how it's going to be, kind of, the eat or die solution. And this is something that we didn't want to do. The only reason why I think that businesses are successful, might that be foundations all the way to, a payment company or a VASP or anybody, is that you kind of build it in tandem with the market. That you take feedback in. So with this, I can announce that we actually have now created another environment called DevNet. So we've got stage, dev, test, and then main. So you've heard about those protocol level tokens. For anybody who's here who doesn't understand this yet, go to our homepage. But in a nutshell, we wanted to abstract a way of smart contract issuance and subsequently smart contract custodial functions. The idea is to issue natively on the L1. No more L2s. Forget L2s, forget rollups, all this shit, right? It's just simply issuing on the protocol level. So those are PLTs. So now, since we have created PLTs last week, congratulations again to, I think, hopefully some of the dev team are watching as well. You guys are doing a stellar job. We have DevNet now available for the very issuers that you have just seen, to kind of go in and do the canary testing, to experiment with the payment rails, the processing, the features on that protocol level, which is going to be built in tandem in order to kind of cover all the different points where you can't think of it by yourself by just providing that technology. You want to hear it by the guys that are actually using it. It's a huge step. It's a huge undertaking, but ultimately will make it extremely efficient. So we've got those 4 stablecoin partners that you've just seen. There are actually a couple of more that are going to join us on that journey over the course of now between here in June. And like I said, keep your eyes peeled. But what they're going to test in this environment is ultimately things like, the verify and buy, verify and pay capabilities, the scheduled transfers, the geofencing bit, like all sorts of stuff. So, and it's going to get absolutely mint as tight in order to make sure that it actually flies once you go into mainnet. So for some people, this doesn't sound huge, but from a business perspective, this is absolutely massive. So, which also should, while you build this along and constantly new features are coming in, should reduce the time of then going to test and then main. So, Peter, yeah, maybe you want to say.
We also have a bunch of use case developers who are going to be starting the unrolling process from next week onwards. So it's not just stablecoins. We have people who are actually going to develop use cases, try it out, kind of get the feedback from the stablecoin guys, from the actual users of systems and whatnot. So it's not just, it's the whole ecosystem that we're going to be developing and testing in this closed environment.
So when you've seen those things online, which is great, like Altcoin Daily or whatever, like saying that Concordium has like 850% increase in developer activity, now you have an answer, right? So this is being done properly. So this is important to understand. Might not sound amazing for the community, but it's a huge step in order to make sure that we are hitting those targets. The other thing, which I think is a quite big announcement, in my opinion, is a legacy problem that has been fixed. Liquidity was always an issue. If you look at the past performance, which looks abysmal, but there are, you being too early. Identity is not necessarily something that flies with degens while everybody's talking DeFi and apes and punks, right? So now this thing has completely been flipped with the entire new strategy that you've heard here. And for that, you kind of need to bulletproof it for the future when it comes to liquidity. So you can access and be part of the community. And for that, we have a top-notch market maker that we've signed with. And I think I think kind of started now already to provide the liquidity. I'm looking at Mike. Yes. So with that, of course, I can happily announce that GSR has been gracious enough, good friends of mine and us for long times already, very early adopters. GSR is our main market maker to provide liquidity for the entire ecosystem. So they don't just do this for any chain. I can tell you this. They turn down a lot. They're very selective and want to understand. So it doesn't matter of how good buddies you are. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take much, like with any other conversation that we have externally, that we have that huge potential that they see, which is sequenced, right? So I'm very happy to share that GSR has taken that step. I'm very grateful to anybody from SingSong to Jacob, Josh, all the way up to Chris, to have taken that punt. So thank you very much, and looking forward to the journey with you guys. So proper liquidity management. Next step is going to be all the different venues that you would like to see us on. Again, coming back to the point that you have said, that I have mentioned earlier, it's also your responsibility. But it's why I spend most of my time, right? Oh, a good chunk of my time. I have to do quite a lot of things. But so yeah. With that, of course, the big thing, like I said, the last 48 hours have been the big announcement day in terms of making sure that after 58, 59 days, our strategy is correct. I'm looking forward to build with those partners and others that are going to join us. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled, because there is quite a few things coming from all sorts of angles. Some of them you might think less sexy, but they are absolutely crucial. Some things extremely sexy. So just keep your eyes peeled. By the way, anybody who's around at Token 2049, Mike and myself and a couple of others from the team are going to come down to the wonderful UAE. So if you see us, high five us, whatever, tell us that it's a kindergarten, whatever else you want. But at the end of the day, say hi. And yeah, just to let everybody know, because it's so many people apparently, and you guys are still here, which is crazy. There is an after party on our Discord channels, which setting that one up was also wonderful. So well done to the team there. So yeah, go to the Discord in order to ask more questions, whatever else it is. And to kind of close this off, because we've taken a lot of your time. Look, from Town Hall number 1 to Town Hall number 2 now, my big concern is that we have kind of, bitten up more than we can chew, that we have positioned ourselves wrongly, that we kind of took the wrong turn, because you kind of really have, after the performance of a project like this, you only really have one proper shot at this. I cannot tell you of how fucking right we are. and sorry for swearing. The features are the features are just so stand out, because also it's understandable. I say this also when Arpan mentioned this afterwards, and I think Andy as well. Look, at the end of the day, blockchain is here to be used, not understood. If we go down the route of trying to understand, and you listen to all those spaces here on X where people are using words, and let's be honest, you won't understand 50% of the shit that is being said on there, because how would you? The space is currently solving for a problem that has no longevity, We need to kind of roll it back and come back to the core promise, in our opinion, of why this industry exists in the first place. And so far, newsflash, guys, that's my view. That is our view as Concordium. We have failed to do so as an entire industry. Some cool shit that we built, no question. But at the end of the day, we have failed in order to deliver, to actually have it in the real world. After like 11, 12 years, you kind of would think we should get there, right? But for some reason, I just look at Twitter, integrate dog with hat and like all this, like this is not going to fly in the long run. It's cool to make some money in the meantime if you want, and you most likely get screwed if you don't peel your eyes on the screen, because things go down as quickly as they can go up. And all I'm saying is I am so confident that we're right. Those past couple of days, since we have put the post out, the appreciation that we've got from press, from anybody else, from big institutions that are saying this is exactly what was needed. And I don't understand why nobody built it. Well, first of all, it's very difficult. But I'm extremely grateful also for those 4 guys who have taken the first leap in order to go out publicly and say, this is what we needed. So ever so grateful for you guys, and thank you. And it should give the community the comfort that they should need and that they deserve when they are taking part in those calls, etc., and listening to me and all the others, that we're not just trying to, do a quick. This is a long-term and ultimate promise delivery of why, in my opinion, this industry exists. So with that, it's ever so fast evolving. I said this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I never thought that we would be at this stage after like 60 days. It's incredible of what the team has pumped out. We're now 70 plus or 75 people that are getting this going at an insane speed. So thank you to anybody. Thank you to anybody listening. Keep your eyes peeled on this. You might currently look at this and go like, well, let's see what happens. Yes, see what happens. There is a lot that is going to happen in the next couple of weeks and months. So with that, of course, thank you so much for the support that you've already shown. I know there are some absolute OGs in here from the TGE side who, of course, are not the happiest bunnies on the planet when it comes to just pure portfolio performance. But at the end of the day, those guys are incredible advocates. So thank you. I think you know everybody of who you are. And thank you for the new community that might join us. Check the guys out that we had on the call here today, please. They are... like I said, an amazing group. So yeah, thank you very much.